Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Los Angeles. I'm Nick Miller alongside Jonathan Job. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, Nick.
Notable member of the sideboard with things like Food Chain, and more Food Chain.
More Food Chain.
You know, top 16 in New Jersey with that.
Yep.
But today we're talking about Standard, and we're talking about Mono Red Aggro. And
Very
not
much so.
anyone's Mono Red Aggro. We're playing Slash and Dash.
Slash and Dash, baby.
All right. Little Ricky Bobby would be proud. Now, there's a lot of ways to build Mono Red in the current Standard format, and we saw a lot of it in Houston, which gave you and a couple other people the idea to tune a Mono Red list specifically to this metagame.
Very true. Basically, we kind of started, Simon Christie did really well with the deck in Houston, and when I was watching him play quite a few rounds, I really liked what the deck was doing. The overall, the meta game, especially with Blue-Black winning Seville this last weekend, I thought there might be a fair amount of control here this weekend. So they never really want to see you go Mountain one drop, and they're just not happy with life. So,
of course, after Robert Burney and Tanner Grace did so well with Green Red Devotion last weekend in Houston, this deck also preys on that by eating up all the mana dudes, kind of getting under them.
Very much so, yeah. Really good against Xenagos because you get 4 Searing Bloods in the main, so you know you get to kill the token and the Xenagos is just the straight 2-for-1. It's great. And just the pressure and Wild Slash is obviously just really good against them as well.
Let's break the deck down because this isn't your typical hammer hand, bunch of enchantments, Dragon Mantle type style Mono Red. Your creature suite, you got Foundry Street Denizen, you've got Fire Drinker Satyr, Frenzy Goblin, and Monastery Swiftspear all at the 1-drop. So you're not playing cards, you know, like a Crowan Crusader.
Right. I found a lot of times when you play the enchantment-based version of the deck, you end up sometimes, honestly, with a bunch of just dead enchantments in your hand. Because anybody's main goal against these kind of decks is to bring in a lot of early sweepers, such as Bile Blight, Drown in Sorrow, stuff like that. And you just seem to get 2-for-1 a lot. It just wasn't as effective as I really wanted it to be. And so sticking with the more creature-heavy version without the enchantments allows you to replace the enchantments that sometimes can be dead with a better burn package.
Right. The burn package, 4 Searing Blood in the main deck to go along with 4 Wild Slash, 4 Lightning Strike, and 4 Stoke the Flame. So you got a ton of burn. Searing Blood, a card that's been going up in stock with everyone playing the red-white aggro deck too. Very
much so, yeah. Just you kill all the red-white aggro decks with it. You know, just making sure that Soulfire Mentor never hits you, or Soulfire Grandmaster, excuse me.
Or Mentor as well.
Or the Mentor, as well as Seeker of the Way. You know, you never want them to have lifelink and get in there with you.
All right, so we've got the Slash. Now let's talk about the Dash. We've got Mardu Scout, 3 of, and 1 Goblin Heel Cutter as well to kind of fight the Drown in Sorrows.
Right, yeah, just the Dash mechanic has been great. Even if the fact that it allows you to continually trigger your Foundry Street Denizen, so that like on turn 1 you hit them, and then turn 2, or turn 2 when you play it, it's coming in there for 5. And it makes them have to have an instant speed removal spell to not be taking 5 a turn.
Yeah.
And it allows you to, you know, be able to play your burn package around it, well, so you can clear the way and then just continue to dash in. And 5 a turn is a pretty significant number.
Are there instances when you're playing it as just a 3-1 and not dashing it?
Sometimes, like against the green decks, where they don't have like the mono green devotion and stuff like that, you want to be able to bash through a Caryatid or stuff like that. But honestly, most of the time he's been dashed in.
So the dash mechanic's pretty strong. Also, you got 2 Rabble Masters and 2 Hordling Outbursts. Ton of goblins for Foundry Street Denizen and Rabble Master in the deck.
Right. Really just, we wanted 4 3-drops in some manner, and we just kind of wanted to diversify the package in the 3-drop slot. So both of them have been great, obviously.
Of course, you have 20 Arabian Night Mountains, thanks to Patrick Sullivan here in this
Sully.
deck. Now, the sideboard has some spicy numbers. I want to talk about Forge Devil.
Sure. Forge Devil was something that we kind of came up with in my playtest group with Tanner Grace and Ruben Bressler, and it was really good when we were thinking about the mirror matchup. Obviously, it's just been absolutely great. When you play against the green decks, it offsets their turn 1 Llanowar Elf if you're on the draw. So it just completely, like, really hurts their ramp strategy, so you don't have to face down things like turn 2 Courser and stuff like that, which can be a pain. And there's actually been a lot of really interesting incidents where we were having trouble dealing with Polukranos, and so we were Forge Deviling into Stoke the Flames, which has actually been very good and surprising amount of times.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. Another thing with Forge Devil as well is if they don't have the turn 1 Mana Elf, it makes dealing with a Courser on turn 3 a lot easier, because then you can Forge Devil into Lightning Strike, and you don't have to waste your big burn spells like Stoke the Flames.
Now that's a powerful tool. You can also just get a ton of value against, you know, the mirror.
Right.
All the decks that are playing, just all the 1/1s or the 2/1s.
Very much so.
Pretty good. You also got another card P. Sully has been talking about, Prophetic Flame Speaker.
Yeah, the guy's been great. I mean, obviously, just what he does, the double strike, trample, in the mirror matchups, in the token matchups, and also he is non-drowned and sorrowable,
right,
which makes him just wonderful. Because you're already overworking their Bile Blights, so if they have to use a Bile Blight on the Prophetic Flame Speaker, you know, you have a lot more options, a lot of things that open the doors for them. So,
right. They're using a Bile Blight on that. They're not getting your tokens off of a
right,
Holding Outburst or 2-for-1s and things like that.
Same thing.
You got Arc Lightning and Scouring Sands is like the killing the tokens package.
Pretty much. Yeah, I went back and forth, honestly, a lot. I was trying to figure out matchups where I wanted each. There was for a while there, my sideboard was just 3 Scouring Sands. And then it just got pointed out to me that sometimes the damage is actually relevant. Yeah. So I ended up just playing 1 Scouring Sands and 2 Arc Lightnings.
Yeah, the thing I've seen pop up is like Arc Lightning can also deal with things like Mantis Rider.
Right.
Of course, you have the Lightning Strike to deal with it. But
honestly,
some of the
all I want to play against is Jeskai.
Yeah.
Like the Jeskai Hacker match is so favorable. It's just wonderful.
All right, and you got a Harness by Force, 3 Eidolon of the Great Revel. Just more punishment to the decks that are trying to get you with cheap removal and things.
Pretty much, yeah. We found that in, you know, the really interesting about the deck is the way it sideboards is a lot of times very play versus draw dependent. You know, when you do a lot of decks, you know, just normal like the ramp decks, control decks, whatever, you know, they just have cards dedicated for matchups. This deck actually has a lot of cards that are dedicated to whether or not you're on the play or draw, and it really impacts which cards you want to bring in. For instance, against the green deck, Eidolon is really good on the play, so that you know when they do play their ramp spells, it hurts them. On the draw, a lot of the times they'll get down 2 mana dorks before you can play an Eidolon, and then when you get to that kind of that late game phase where you're trying to like burn them out and they're trying to hit you with a big guy, Eidolon can actually be a hindrance to you, so you probably take them out on the draw.
Right, we've seen people like Brad Nelson talk about all the different sideboarding options for play draw. You've seen like Rabblemaster usually comes out on the draw, stuff like that. You got 2 Peak Eruption, a card I was expecting to see a lot more of with Mono Red popping up, but also the Red-White deck and all the Chain of the Rocks.
Right, it's mainly in there for the Red-White deck. It's also another thing that I think is important on the play versus draw.
Yeah.
When I'm expecting my opponents, if I do play the Mono Red Mirror, to have Peak Eruptions in their sideboards. So if I'm on the draw, I really don't want Peak Eruption in my deck, because if they hit me on 3 with it, then I'm on 2, and then they're on 4, and I'm just way behind the whole way. So you really have to get your curve down under their Peak Eruptions.
All right, well, Jonathan, this deck is awesome. Hopefully you guys are slashing and dashing them all weekend long. Thanks for sitting down here in the sideboard with me.
Thanks, Nick.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Los Angeles.